it's great to be back in February, and it's great to see the events and stuff, but it's also, I think about it in 2020, I didn't think by 2022 is that half of the calls I would be getting this week would be from cryptocurrency miners asking if NAPE's a good fit for them. So it's kind of funny to see the transition between 2020 and 2022 and how much the show has even changed, and how many different audiences that I would never think, back in 2020 would be at NAPE in 2022.
Oil and gas makes modern life possible. The energy the world requires today and tomorrow will come from decisions made in the oil field today. Oil and gas will remain the leading source of fuel to power affordable energy that is sustainable for the billions of people that depend on the success of the industry. The oil field is a group of people, companies, technologies, and institutions working towards providing the world with safe, clean, storable, and transportable power. The Oilfield 360 podcast is a 360-degree deep dive into the leaders of the industry, who will provide listeners with a first-hand account of what it takes to build, maintain, and lead the energy business into the future. The Oilfield 360 podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors: Locked In Global Energy and Marine, uncommonly independent. Locked In is the world's largest privately owned insurance broker and risk finance advisor. Locked In's global energy expertise is centered in Houston and represents the largest concentration of energy specialists, clients, and experiential knowledge in the upstream, midstream, and downstream segments of the oil and gas industry. Visit lockedin.com for more information. Upright Digital. Upright Digital specializes in partnering with your business to maximize marketing efficiencies. We have a deep understanding of people, their needs, motivations, behaviors, as well as the technologies that enable brands in many industries to utilize what is available in a changing digital landscape. Find us online at uprightdigital.com.
Hello and welcome to the Oilfield 360 podcast, coming to you live from the Flecha Azul podcast studio in Houston, Texas. I'm your host, Greg Davis, and it is my distinguished pleasure to be joined by our reliable and steady co-host, Mr. David deRoode, also known as the hardest working man in energy risk management. David, how you doing today?
Doing well, partner. Glad to have you on here.
You look good. I thought
be
about
my co-host.
It's good to be here. This is podcast number 1, so surely people can expect improvement. Hopefully our guests will accommodate my failures and shortcomings for this first maiden voyage. And I thought about, leading in with a loaded question for you, David, which is, what do you notice that's different about me today? Think about it.
I think maybe you might have some socks that my son Everest might have given you for Christmas.
You passed the test. Mm-hmm. You did. So yes, these are I'm very proud to sport these rainbow trout socks. Made in America, made in Montana, given to me as a gift for Christmas from David's younger son, Everest. So, I thought I'd bring a little flair, let folks know.
That's good. It's a lot better than those multicolored shoelaces Josh was always wearing.
A lot of upgrades over that experience, no doubt. Well, glad you're doing well today. Would you like to introduce our distinguished guests?
Absolutely. So, pleasure to have Leanne Callihan here and Drew Guntert from NAPE. And they're here to talk to us about what's going on at the upcoming NAPE here in a couple weeks here in Houston. So welcome you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Glad to be a part of NAPE. I think we're going to be doing a podcast or two at NAPE, and I think I'm also been roped into doing a panel discussion with the infamous Jim Wickland as well. So. Anyways, it'll be interesting.
You could sell tickets for that.
Oh, that will be fantastic.
Be a good talk. Welcome you both.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, David, you kind of, I think it's a good starting point just to talk about. I mean, as I was doing my research for this, I've been going to NAPE ever since I was hatched and fell into the energy industry in kind of 2004. So it's been a mainstay for me, having been in the upstream sector originally and now doing kind of everything across energy value chain where I'm at today. But didn't realize it went as far back as 1993. And I think, if I recall, the first NAPE had 750 attendees or something, and you're now up to over 15,000. So, clearly it's one of the most important, and has been one of the most important kind of industry gatherings, and certainly stood apart from my perspective and in my career. So, maybe you could, for our listening audience who may not be familiar with what NAPE is, maybe you can give us just kind of a quick, what is NAPE and how did it get started, and where was this idea originally hatched, and how did it all come together?
Well, I'll let Leanne take that because she was actually at the first NAPE.
Yeah, I'll be happy to tell you about our history. I had just started with AAPL, who is the managing partner of NAPE, and anyone who does not know what AAPL stands for, it's the American Association of Professional Landmen. And so at that time, it was during a downturn, and there was a group of land leaders who were trying to come up with new ideas to help the industry, to help deals get going, and help the plight of the landman. And so they had the idea to have a prospect expo. That idea was not met with warm wishes at the beginning. There were a lot of industry players, T-Boone Pickens, a lot of big names that are like, what are they doing in Houston? That's going to be a starving artist sale. No one wants to show their maps or sell prospects that way. This is a private business. But the idea was to help with really save on traveling. Instead of having to go to Denver, to Oklahoma City, to Houston, and all over the country to show your prospect, we wanted to create a central marketplace for buyers and sellers to come together and make deals happen. And so the first NAPE was held at the Westin Galleria here in Houston in a hotel ballroom. We had 80 booths and about 750 attendees, and we had an article written about it in the Houston Chronicle, and all of a sudden we had people starting lining up. What's going on, And it was really exciting to see the growth. Since 1993, we've now grown to host more than 1,200 exhibitors, and anywhere from 12,000 to 15,000 attendees each year. And through that growth, we've added a couple of different elements to NAPE, well, actually a lot of different elements to always keep it innovative and exciting. But it was a historical moment when the landman, Mike Grimm, as a lot of people who watch this or listen to this show probably know Mike in the industry. He was one of our founders who got on the phone with his friends, Marty Searcy at the time. A lot of those founders just had to get on the phone and say, guys, let's try this. Bring your prospects. Let's see what happens.
Interesting. So one of those, necessity being the mother of all invention kind of situations, which I didn't appreciate that history at all, because by the time I arrived, it was the event. Right. So credit to y'all for making that happen. So how, given that there was just sort of a mixed review from some of the big stakeholders in the industry at the time, and it almost kind of seems like you guys were kind of creating your own groundswell. I mean, I looked at the numbers. I mean, you doubled the attendance like every 3 years almost. So the pace of growth was incredibly rapid. What was it that made it, what was it that made that event something that people recognized and really just sort of found to be something they wanted to support and really grow? Because that's exponential growth you guys have seen.
Well, I really think the secret sauce is the prospects. It's our prospect generators. I mean, that prospect generators are the foundation of NAPE, and that's what makes it special. It's not just a service company show, even though we love our vendors and we give a special place for our vendors. As you'll notice when you tour NAPE, they're up front. They're our sponsors. We appreciate them. But our meat and potatoes are the prospect generators, and now we've kind of expanded that even into renewable projects. That's what brings the decision makers to the show.
Excellent. Yeah, and there's probably, if there's 15,000 people inside the convention center, there's probably another 15,000 in the surrounding bars, whether it's Four Seasons or the Grove, I mean, what have you. And I always, I look at NAPE as really just almost putting a mirror up to the industry, right? Whether it's, hey, what are people focused on? Where are they spending their time and money from a development standpoint or prospect opportunities? You can get a very good read on the financial health of the industry based upon the quality of the entertainment and the events surrounding NAPE. And so I just would be kind of curious, Drew, maybe to hear from your perspective as a director, how are you handling this in the age of Omicron and COVID? And I'll tell you, people are starving for direct interaction, but we tried as a city to kind of have a lot of the holiday things, and everybody started canceling those. So how have you found the reception? How have you guys had to navigate such a large in-person event during a really kind of unprecedented time?
It's one of those things that I can't say it's not difficult. But it's also one of those things is we try to be safe as possible. We let people kind of choose for themselves. We present PPE, we do all the things that we need for people, and we supply all those things so they can come to the event. We're even going to have vaccinations on the trade show floor. If you need your booster still, even if you need a flu shot or you want to start the vaccination process, we have a booth that you can do that at NAPE.
That's great.
So we try to be part of the solution and everything like that, but we also think that it's our responsibility to help the industry, and we can't just hit the pause button every time. I think we all have figured out how to navigate the world, and we still want to present NAPE to the industry. So we're bringing it just like we traditionally do, and then you can come, you can be safe, you can opt in on just maybe if you just want to walk the trade show floor, that's fine. But if you want to interact, go to all the networking events, we're prepared for you to do that as safely as possible. And then, as you said, all the events outside of NAPE, which NAPE is, it's a fun week for the industry.
I think everybody's significant other probably hates NAPE week.
Oh, yeah.
But you're right. It's a from sun up to sundown, and sometimes thereafter. It is a full plate that entire week, which is great. It's as you pointed out, Leanne. It's rare to get that many people that you can have that many quality touch points in such a condensed time without also having to travel all over, right? So it's hugely important for us.
I know, and I think one more thing. I think my favorite thing about NAPE is the Houston traffic report in the morning when I can click on the news and the traffic reporter goes, "Well, everybody, NAPE's in town." So it makes me feel good, makes me feel like we're generating and we're bringing a lot of people together to the marketplace.
Well, and recognize too that I can't remember the stat exactly, but I think it's over $22 million of revenue that comes to the city of Houston by virtue of NAPE. So the city thanks you as well, right? And that's probably half of what's actually truly measurable, because it is every restaurant, every bar, every venue downtown, and all across town, frankly, benefits from it. So it's a huge thing, and I'm really grateful that it's back. And I think based upon the number of invites we've seen in our inboxes, I think everybody's fully embraced that. Hey, look, we're dealing with COVID, sure, but we need to be in person when this thing needs to happen. So really grateful you guys push that forward.
And I would like to say that I am personally praying for every person in the energy industry and in Houston that for health and safety and wellness to be able to come to NAPE.
No doubt. Yes, and it's one of those things, though, to your point, Drew. Everybody's just having to deal with it. We'll navigate, and but certainly, hopefully it's not a super spreader. But I don't think it will be. No.
Well, we did have our event in August, and we had 4,000 people attend in August, and it was a very safe event, and we did not get any negative feedback or any phone calls. So we do think that the PPE works, and the GRB, the George R. Brown Convention Center, where we host NAPE, they have made huge strides in delivering a safe environment through filtering systems. And Drew, you can speak to, he's our safety guy. The other things that they've done to make it a very safe environment.
Sanitation is key for the facility and stuff, and that's a city facility, so they go through the guidelines and are regulated, and their staff does a great job there of keeping the facilities clean, COVID friendly, air purification systems, HEPA filters, all those good things. And then lots of signage and stuff, wash your hands, keep your social distance and everything, be responsible, for yourself, and be responsible for, for others as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I like you, Greg, the invite started rolling in. I said, it might be coming back to the good old days when brought a lot of people in town. It's kind of like whether it was NAPE or CERAWeek or OTC, it's amazing to me how many people come into town not only to attend the event, but everything that goes on around it, and not just the operators and the prospect generators, but the service companies, the midstream companies. It's just another reason to be in Houston to meet with folks. So it's I applaud y'all for keeping it going. And
thank you.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what's the color of NAPE this year, because I remember starting out in 2004, it was Rocky CBM is going to save the day, and offshore Gulf of Mexico oil were big topics, and oil sands, everybody forgets about those. And then it was shale, and then it was kind of the tangential things that they were tight rock, but not really shale, and private equity burned a lot of capital in some of those plays. But every year you kind of had a sense for, okay, I think this year's going to be about XYZ play or this kind of concept. I suspect this year, given all that's going on in the energy world and the transition that we're undertaking, maybe a little bit harder to predict what you're going to see. So do you have a flavor for, the types of folks who've signed up for booths, who's presenting, and what do you think if I were to walk into the convention center and just make a lap, what's it going to look like this year?
Well, it's going to be, you're going to see a lot of your traditional NAPE booths, your traditional prospects. One thing about NAPE is that's what's so interesting about it. It's such a wide variety of energy options. It's like an energy buffet and stuff. You may have a leasing round from Australia over here being conducted by their government, and then you may have somebody, in western Kansas, pushing out, an already producing property. Right. So, that's why people go to NAPE, is that they can gauge the industry and they can see wherever they're working at. It's it's a global show, and then also too is kind of the new kids in the block. We're making room, a safe space for renewable companies.
It's important
where they can take that element, because the oil industry has so many great events like OTC, NAPE, Doug shows. All of us produce this content and build these shows and to be part of the industry. And now it's, these renewable energy stuff is coming to light, and they don't have that kind of shows, and they don't have necessarily the disciplines and all the experience that's at NAPE. So we like bringing that and like giving those companies the options of, hey, this is how we show, this is one of the way that we've been showing prospects. And they go, this is amazing. That I can bring my solar, I can bring my wind project, and I can show it at NAPE too. And even kind of those sneaky oil and gas companies who have that backroom renewable company can come, and they're like, you know what, this is great. I can still come to NAPE, I can do my oil and gas, and I can start this new project, and also, leverage NAPE education that we do on the trade show floor with the Renewable Energy Pavilion, and learn on new ways that they can, green up your business a little bit, or, just if you want to sit in and learn something new.
And that's hugely important. You'll, as our listening audience will know, you'll hear us talk a lot about the importance of, the importance of hydrocarbons. We're going to be around for a while, in spite of everybody's best hopes and intentions. But absolutely the importance of the industry being willing to embrace renewables and ESG and everything that's happening. Yep. Because, look, it's whether you agree with it or not, it doesn't really matter. It's occurring. And so, and there's no reason why the energy industry shouldn't be leading and out in front leading that transition, because we have the people, we have the technology, so we have all the makings of it. We probably need a little bit more capital if the markets will open back up to us. But 100%, we should be, embracing it, and it should be not necessarily the focal point, but it should be a big component of what we're seeing. And I'm grateful that, you say that you've kind of created a space for those folks to show up and be a part of the conversation just at large, right? Because it seems like when people get onto the subject, it's you kind of have to choose one or the other. Yeah. And I'm a believer that you need all of it, right? And maybe one day, I don't think it'll be over my investing horizon, but one day if we don't need oil anymore, then Houston needs to be out, and we're going to be here for a while, so we need to be out in front and take the lead instead of really being kind of dictated to or being caught flat-footed. So, I think that's incredible that y'all are doing that.
One of our goals this year in particular was to help the industry change its mindset from us versus them, or fossil fuels versus renewables, and become an all-encompassing, energy marketplace. And so we've tried to, even in our marketing, stress that we're a marketplace for deals in all energy sectors. We used to joke and call NAPE our little lemonade stand that we started. And that lemonade stand now has grown to offer many, many different flavors. And so that's kind of what you'll see, I think, this year at NAPE, and even more in the future as we all learn more about how this crypto technology is fitting into energy. And there's so many exciting new developments, and that's what NAPE's all about, is not just bringing buyers and sellers together, but also people with great minds and great ideas and new technologies. And so, I'm really excited just thinking about it. It's been a couple of years since we've had a February event. Right. And so I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to learning more. I mean, I'm going to go by some of the new exhibitors that we have in our renewable energy pavilion, just so I can learn more and know how to better serve our clients, from our perspective.
Yeah. And that's a good point too. Sometimes I forget is we presented some virtual shows, some different kind of content in between, like the COVID period and stuff. But I kind of think about 2020 when I left that NAPE. I remember, like, for COVID, I mean, it was literally, we were the buzzer beater of events and stuff if you were there in 2020, because everybody's like, what are you doing about COVID? And I was like, well, I ordered 5 hand sanitizer stations. And they're like, good job. Yeah. And then it just all kind of snowballed after that. So we were very lucky to be able to present that show in 2020, and then 2021 we pushed to August and had a very successful event, all things included. But it's great to be back in February, and it's great to see the events and stuff. But it's also, I think about it, in 2020. I didn't think by 2022 is that half of the calls I would be getting this week would be from cryptocurrency miners asking if NAPE's are a good fit for them. So it's kind of funny to see the transition between 2020 and 2022 and how much the show has even changed, and how many different audiences that I would never think, back in 2020 would be at NAPE in 2022. Yeah, no,
it's funny too, right? Because getting out in circulation again and seeing people in person, I'm like, oh wait, I haven't seen you in like 2 years, right? I mean, it's just, there's like almost like a void of space in my mind where a year just disappeared. Yeah. I don't know what it's like for you, David. I mean, you're probably one of the more social people in the city of Houston, but it just and that's disappointing, right? Because very few things got done when you can't meet in person. It's just very challenging, and y'all did the best you could to try to go virtual and navigate it and stay relevant, but. Yeah, it's. I'm a big proponent of the in-person, direct point of contact.
It's huge.
And I will say, one of the things that 2020 taught us, and presenting our virtual event, it helped us create the NAPE Network, which gave us an avenue to show prospects online, which before, we were as event organizers of one of the largest events, in-person events, we were always a little nervous about putting our prospects online, because then we were thinking, well, then why would people want to come to NAPE if they can look at the prospects online? So good and bad that we had to have a virtual show in summer of 2021 is that we were able to find a platform where we could list prospects online for our clients, but it also showed us that our clients still wanted to network and meet in person to do the deals. And so now we feel like we can provide even a better service, and that's what we're here for, because we can provide the in-person event, the marketplace, to meet face-to-face, while also, being relevant to technology and being able to give people
more accessible way to look at prospects a little bit.
Thank you. online as well. So it's kind of more bang for the buck, and a better service.
People still like to go to HEB and touch their avocados before they buy them.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you.
And we always kind of like joke in the office is like, we kind of have to try to be Netflix, but then we also have to try to be Blockbuster at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of keeping that balance too. Is always a different and sometimes a difficult thing to do.
Well, I think y'all have got staying power when you think about it's 2022. Y'all started in 1993. Mm-hmm. Like we were talking about earlier. I mean, there's so many people that historically, the last 2 years, I think you just kind of got to write off because it's just a bit of blip. But, I mean, annually, I know for as long as Greg's been going and I've been going and involved, it was just something you knew was on the calendar. And things got planned around it, whether they were even going to the show or not. Yeah. And I still would go take a lap or two because, have friends and clients there. But I think it's good to have that digital aspect. That was going to be one of our questions if kind of just the digitalization of things, if that's impacted you all or not. And I think people still like to get together, and so I think you've kind of become a fixture of the industry, which is a good thing. And I think people still like to go and haggle with folks because they're not just saying, "Hey, I'm paying you X amount of acre." There's other people that are competing for it. People like to talk to the team and really look them in the eye and go, "So I understand the data, but what else?"
Yeah. And it's the other thing too on the digital aspect is that those digital companies have really supported NAPE too, is that they come and they take large exhibits and then they kind of take a time out for that week of selling their digital. Of course, they're not taking down their sites, but they're also actively selling those listed prospects with them at NAPE, which I think is very cool and something that you don't really see a lot is, they sponsor NAPE and they embrace it and stuff, and it's important to them because, NAPE was kind of a blueprint of how to put these prospects out there and stuff. So, I mean, it's great to have their support, and it's great to see them. And even, we're working with a lot of the companies. We work with Energy Domain right now on the NAPE month. It was a sponsorship through them of helping getting prospects out there before and during NAPE. So, it's been a good partnership, and it's something, we've kind of embraced them, and they've kind of embraced us.
Yeah, it's huge. And the fact is, consumers are, and you have a very big challenge because you've got a pretty large cross-section of, and I'm going to put myself in the older generation who consume things on analog versus the liquid metal version of ourselves now, who are much more digitally inclined and they consume their information and receive it from multiple different channels. So, applaud you all for your ability to kind of adapt to that changing environment. I've been slow to adapt, and ultimately, frankly, COVID was probably helpful for me because I had to learn a lot of new things about how to stay in touch and communicate while you can't be in person. So there was one upside. So really grateful to hear that. Maybe that's kind of one of the things I wanted to touch on a bit. So you've talked about how you've had to modify your format of your content somewhat. How do you stay relevant and keep the information on point with folks while recognizing that, hey, maybe people aren't comfortable showing up in person? How do you still reach those individuals and maintain your sponsorship base and participation, making room for renewables, which is great. Mm-hmm. So maybe if you could just sort of cast forward, what is your vision for the conference, while you're at the helm? How do you see it evolving over time?
Well, let kind of Leanne go first on that one. That's a great question.
Well, we serve a variety of customers, demographic wise, and also, NAPE is a place for all disciplines. I mean, we serve land professionals, geologists, geophysicists, engineers, attorneys. A big part of our audience are financiers, and so we try to gear our content to be relevant in the big picture of energy. And so that's why we want to stress that it's a marketplace. Whether you're starting to get into battery storage, or we will never abandon our roots in the traditional oil and gas deal. So there's so many options at NAPE that our focus is to try to meet those needs. It's kind of like a grocery store. And as Drew likes to put, now we have a new organic section. So I think moving forward, we'll continue also to meet the needs of the traditional oil man. Just like you said, as far as technology, we are offering prospects online, but we are still printing our show guide that lists prospects, by basin and county, in a little booklet. And then you can look up the booth number and you can walk to that booth. So, and then after the show, we have a lot of our global clients who aren't able because of COVID to travel. So we are going to offer a bundle package. Our wonderful global business conference starring David as one of our panelists on one of the sessions. All of those sessions will be recorded and offered as a bundle to people who cannot come to the event in person. And then we again have the prospects online for those individuals as well. So people can get a glimpse of NAPE even if they aren't able to be there in person. We hope to see everyone's smiling faces, but there are circumstances, especially our international clients who can't come. So we are providing an avenue through recorded material, through the show guide, and our NAPE month prospect listings.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest thing is that you can't, NAPE has kind of become a tradition in the industry and stuff, and that's good. It makes us feel good as a soft spot for a lot of people, but you can't ride on tradition forever. You have to be relevant. It's like Disney World. There's a new ride every single year, and that's one big thing that, since me and Leanne worked together, that was our thing, is that there has to be something new every single year. Sometimes that event or that concept doesn't work, and it's put back. And it really didn't work. It's forgotten forever. But it's revamped and done, and it's to be relevant in the industry and stuff. And I do think live events have a place, and I think they should always have a place, because it's that one time a year when you get together. We may say less live events, but I definitely think NAPE has that spot in the industry where it's educational, but it's also an industry resource. If you need a prospect or a deal, you can pick one up and have work for your company for the next few years. So that's kind of the biggest thing, is it's just we're trying new things and bringing new events within the event every single year.
Yeah, well, and much like it's, again, I just firmly believe it's a great reflection of the industry, and absolutely, if y'all were not adapting the way that you are, you would become irrelevant, right? And I think it's a great parallel to the traditional hydrocarbon space, right, where you've got people who are just stalwarts and are kind of hard-headed and not easily adaptable or embracing of change. So I love to hear that you guys are pushing things out on multiple channels and different formats, and you're giving a forum for more than just the traditional routes that you'll still that'll be a mainstay, right? So that I'm actually pretty excited to go to NAPE now.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I did also want to touch on while we have you here, and it was something I didn't appreciate about NAPE, is that there's a lot of charitable giving that's taken place. I think I read that since 2009, y'all have contributed $4.5 million or more to charities. Can you talk a little bit about how that came about and the causes you all support? And I think a lot of it's kind of veteran based, so really important. I think Houston is one of those cities where I'm a transplant, David's a transplant, but everybody here who has accepted Houston as their home loves it. It's one of the most giving and caring cities out there. So, one, thank you for what you do. But if you could just talk about that for a minute, I think that's an important aspect as well.
Yeah. What's unique about NAPE is actually, brought to the industry by 4 non-for-profit organizations. AEPL, as I mentioned before, is the managing partner, but we also have the Independent Petroleum Association of America, IPAA, as one of our partners, the Society of Exploration Geophysicists, and the American Association of Petroleum Geologists. And so 100% of the net profit that comes from a NAPE show goes back, 100% goes back to the nonprofit associations that provide industry support to their members, public lands access, advocacy, education. And so truly NAPE is all about, it's an event by industry for industry. And then in addition to that, we also have our NAPE Expo Charities Fund. And yes, since 2005, we have, and when I say we, I mean the industry. I mean America's energy industry. And NAPE have donated more than $4 million to veteran charities, to our American heroes. We have a charities luncheon each year. This year, our keynote speaker is former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. And it is a very moving event. If you have not attended the charities luncheon, I encourage everyone to do so. We celebrate 3 to 4 veteran charities each year. 100% of donations, 100% of the donations go to the charities. NAPE Expo pays for the luncheon and the speaker fees, anything like that, so that all donations go directly to those charities. And we celebrate those charities at the luncheon, and it's a very moving event. I encourage everyone to attend that, even if you can't come to the entire expo.
Well, look, this has been a great conversation. I think, again, really appreciate what you all do for the industry, appreciate what you do for the city of Houston, and I'm grateful to hear that you guys also, go beyond yourselves and support some very important causes, not just for the industry, but for U.S. veterans. So it was really nice to hear about that. Maybe in closing, is there anything that you would like our listening audience to know about the upcoming event here in 2 weeks or so? Is there anything that they should know if they'd like to register? They've heard this, they're all excited about NAPE, they're lathered up, they're ready to go. Where do you direct them?
You'll go to www.napeexpo.com, and remember, we have NAPE in Houston for a reason. You can register on the website, but if it's the day of and you want to come to NAPE, just come down to the George R. Brown Convention Center, and we'll sell you a registration on the spot.
And the mantra of NAPE is where deals happen, so we could not leave here without giving your listeners a great deal on NAPE registration. So we have a promo code called Podcast PAL. That's PODCAST PAL, and you get $100 off your registration. So just go to napeexpo.com, put in the promo code Podcast PAL, and come see us at NAPE.
I will certainly do that.
Yeah.
Well, Leanne, Drew, it's been our pleasure to have you here in the Flecha Azul podcast studio. David, as always, thank you for being a gracious co-host.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
It's our first podcast together.
I know, man. You're awfully quiet, too. You're going to have to...
Well, I'm letting you, kind of break yourself in a little bit.
Yeah, I'll get motor mouth going, though.
Yeah. Well, David has to, rest yourself. You're a speaker at NAPE, so we need
I got to rest.
You got to rest
the voice.
Singing voice, sir.
Rest the golden pipes. Yeah. Right. Well, listen, thank you all for tuning in. It has been our pleasure to come to you today. And again, you can follow us on uprightdigital.com, and remember to subscribe to the Oilfield 360 podcast on your favorite podcast platform, wherever you choose to receive that content. And as a reminder, you can always catch our podcast live on our YouTube channel, so we encourage you to do that, so you can see these rainbow trout socks that I'm sporting today. And you can also follow us on LinkedIn. So thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all, and look forward to a fun event.
Hey, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, guys.
The Oilfield 360 podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors: Locked In Global Energy and Marine, uncommonly independent. Locked In is the world's largest privately owned insurance broker and risk finance advisor. Locked In's global energy expertise is centered in Houston, and represents the largest concentration of energy specialists, clients, and experiential knowledge in the upstream, midstream, and downstream segments of the oil and gas industry. Visit lockedin.com for more information. Upright Digital. Upright Digital specializes in partnering with your business to maximize marketing efficiencies. We have a deep understanding of people, their needs, motivations, behaviors, as well as the technologies that enable brands in many industries to utilize what is available in a changing digital landscape. Find us online at uprightdigital.com.